Mommy, go faster!
2-year-old Rosie bounced in the baby carrier strapped to Serena Mitchell's back. Her tiny hands gripped her mother's shirt as the old motorcycle sputtered through downtown Atlanta traffic. "I'm going, baby girl," Serena called over her shoulder. "Hold on tight." Zoom, zoom. Serena smiled despite the ache in her bones. She had been making deliveries since 5 in the morning. It was now 3 in the afternoon, and she still had 2 more packages to drop off before she could call it a day. Her phone buzzed. Another order. Another $3.50. It wasn't much, but it was something. And something was all Serena had. She weaved through traffic, her mind doing the math it always did. Rent was due in 4 days. The electricity bill was already late. If she could squeeze in 5 more deliveries today, maybe, just maybe, she could make it work. The afternoon sun beat down hard. Sweat dripped down Serena's back. Her arms ached from gripping the motorcycle handles for hours. But she didn't stop. She never stopped, because stopping meant thinking. And thinking meant remembering how she got here. How 2 years ago she had a husband and a home and a future. How all of it had crumbled to dust the moment Travis walked out the door and never came back. No, Serena didn't have time for thinking. She had a daughter to feed. "Mom, Mom, look!" Rosie was pointing at something. Serena glanced in that direction, ready to dismiss whatever had caught her toddler's attention. And then she saw him. A man sitting on the street corner. Dirty clothes, scraggly beard, a cardboard sign in his lap. Something about him looked familiar. Serena slowed down, squinted, and her heart nearly stopped. "No way," she whispered. "That can't be." But those eyes, that jawline, that face she had seen 1,000 times in Mr. Henderson's chemistry class back in high school. It was him. Serena pulled her motorcycle to the side of the road so fast that Rosie yelped. "Mom, ow!" "Sorry, baby, sorry." But Serena was already climbing off the bike, her eyes fixed on the man on the corner. "Now let me stop right here and tell you something important." The man Serena was looking at? The one with the dirty clothes and the cardboard sign? His name was Knox Crawford, and he was worth $53 billion. Yes, billion. With a B. Knox owned Crawford Industries, one of the largest investment firms in the world. He had buildings in 15 countries. He had 3 private jets, a yacht, and more cars than he could count. He could buy this entire city block without checking his bank account. But every single year, on the anniversary of his father's death, Knox did something crazy. He became homeless. For exactly 1 month, Knox gave up everything. His penthouse, his tailored suits, his entire identity. He would sit on street corners, sleep on park benches, and beg for spare change. Why? Because of what his father told him the night before he died. "Son," the old man had said, "money is a mask. It hides people's true faces. If you want to know who someone really is, meet them when you have nothing to offer." So every year, Knox tested the world. He watched who walked past without looking. He noted who laughed or sneered or took pictures to mock him. And he paid close attention to who stopped, who showed kindness, who saw him as human when he looked like he had nothing. At the end of the month, every person who had shown genuine kindness would receive help. Money, jobs, business opportunities, whatever they needed to change their lives. It was his father's legacy, finding good people and rewarding them for their good hearts. This year, Knox had been on the streets for 29 days. He had identified 97 kind souls. He needed just 3 more to complete his list of 100. And then Serena Mitchell had slammed on her brakes and started walking toward him. Knox remembered her from high school. Quiet girl. Always had her nose in a book. Kind to everyone, even the kids nobody else liked. She had sat 2 rows in front of him in chemistry, and he remembered thinking she seemed nice. They hadn't been close, had barely spoken more than a few words, but she had left an impression. Now she was staring at him like she had seen a ghost. And Knox realized he had a very interesting problem. Serena crouched down in front of the man on the corner. "Knox?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Knox, Trevor?" Ah, yes, Trevor. The fake name his father had him go by all through high school for security reasons. No one except a few teachers knew his actual name was Knox Crawford, that he was heir to Crawford Industries. He looked up slowly. Those same warm brown eyes she remembered. That same crooked smile, though it looked tired now. Defeated. Serena? His voice was rough. Serena Mitchell? Oh my God. Serena pressed her hand to her chest. It is you. What? Knox, what happened? What are you doing out here? Knox looked away. His jaw tightened like he was fighting embarrassment. It's a long story. I have time. No, you don't. He nodded toward her delivery bag. You're working, and you have a little one to take care of. He looked at Rosie, who was peering at him with big, curious eyes from the carrier on Serena's back. Cute kid. Hi, Rosie waved enthusiastically. I'm Rosie. Hey there, Rosie, that's a pretty name. I know. The toddler grinned proudly. Mom says so. Knox chuckled, and something about the sound made Serena's chest feel warm. But she shook it off. This wasn't the time. Knox, talk to me. What happened to your business? Last I heard, you were doing really well. Everyone back home said you were going to be somebody. Knox was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. It failed, he said, his voice flat. Everything. Bad investments. Partners who stabbed me in the back. One day I had everything. The next... He gestured at his torn clothes, his dirty face, his cardboard sign. This is what's left. Serena felt her heart crack. She remembered how ambitious Knox had been in school, how determined, how sure that he was going to make something of himself. He had been one of those people everyone expected to succeed, and now he was begging on the streets. Why didn't you reach out? Serena asked softly. Why didn't you ask anyone for help? Who was I supposed to ask? Knox laughed, but there was no humor in it. Everyone I knew has their own problems. And the people I met in business? They disappeared real quick once the money was gone. Knox? Look, it's fine. I'm managing. You don't need to worry about me. But Serena was already shaking her head. No. Knox blinked. No? I said no. Her voice was firm in a way that surprised even her. You're not staying out here. Not when I can help. Serena, I appreciate it, but come home with me. The words hung in the air. Knox stared at her. What? You heard me. I'm not leaving you on this corner. You're coming home with me. Serena, you don't even know what my situation is. I could be dangerous. I could be... Are you dangerous? No. Then get up. She stood and held out her hand. We went to the same school. I sat 2 rows in front of you for 2 years. I'm not going to act like I don't know you and just walk away. Knox looked at her outstretched hand. His mind was racing. If he went with her, his entire experiment would get complicated. He would have to lie to her face every single day. He would have to watch her struggle while he secretly had more money than she could imagine. But if he said no, he would be rejecting genuine kindness, the exact thing his experiment was designed to find. And honestly, he didn't want to say no. You sure about this? He asked. You don't know what you're getting into. I know you need help. Serena's eyes were steady. And I know what it feels like when everyone turns their back on you. So are you coming or not? Knox looked at her hand one more time. Then he took it. Okay, he said, letting her pull him to his feet. But just for a few days, until I figure something out. We'll see about that. Serena turned to head back to her motorcycle. Come on, I still have one more delivery. As soon as her back was turned, Knox pulled out a small burner phone hidden in his jacket pocket, the phone he used for emergencies during his homeless experiments. He typed a quick message to Wesley, his head of PR. Change of plans. Going off grid. Someone from my past took me in. Maintain cover at all costs. Brief the team. We'll update when possible. He hit send just as Serena turned around. Ready? Knox shoved the phone deep in his pocket. Right behind you. Y'all, if you're already hooked on this story, go ahead and smash that like button right now. Because what Serena is about to show Knox, it's going to change everything. Drop a comment saying, I'm already invested, and let me know what you think of Knox's situation. Would you take in someone you knew from high school? Let's talk about it in the comments. The ride across town was unlike anything Knox had experienced in years. No leather seats, No climate control, no tinted windows separating him from the world. Just a rusty motorcycle that sounded like it was held together by prayers. The wind whipping against his face, and his arms wrapped awkwardly around Serena's waist while little Rosie babbled happily from the carrier between them. "Hold tight," Serena called over her shoulder as they hit a pothole. Knox almost flew off the back. "Maybe slow down?" "Can't. I'm already late." "For what?" "Mr. Patterson, on Crawford Street." Knox nearly choked. Crawford Street, named after his grandfather. Oh, the irony. "He does not like waiting," Serena continued. She veered toward a fancy high-rise building and screeched to a stop. "2 minutes. Don't move." She sprinted inside with a package, leaving Knox alone with Rosie. The toddler turned in her carrier and stared at him. "You funny?" she announced. Knox blinked. "Funny how?" "You dirty." "Yeah, I know." "It's okay." Rosie reached out and patted his cheek with her tiny hand. "Mom, fix it." Knox felt something warm spread through his chest. This kid. This sweet, innocent little kid. She didn't care that he looked homeless. She didn't care that he smelled like he'd been sleeping on park benches, which he had. She just saw another person. "Your mom seems really nice," Knox said. "Mom the best," Rosie declared. "She makes food. She sings songs." "Yeah? She gives hugs, too." Rosie nodded seriously. "Good hugs." "I bet. You want hug?" Before Knox could answer, Rosie had leaned forward and wrapped her little arms around his neck in the most awkward, wonderful embrace he had ever received. "There," she said, pulling back. "Now you happy?" And somehow, against all logic, Knox actually was. 20 minutes later, they pulled off the main road and onto a long, winding driveway. Knox's eyes went wide. At the end of the driveway stood a very impressive mansion. Not as impressive as his, but still impressive. 3 stories, white columns, manicured gardens. The kind of house that screamed old money and southern elegance. "This is where you live?" he asked. "Not exactly," Serena said quietly. Her voice had changed, gotten smaller. She drove past the mansion's main entrance and followed a narrow, overgrown path around the back of the property. And there, hidden behind a cluster of neglected bushes, was a tiny building that looked like it was about to fall down. The paint was peeling off in chunks. Half the windows were cracked or covered with plastic. There was a blue tarp stretched across part of the roof, a failed attempt to stop leaks. A rusty bucket sat by the front door, half filled with murky rainwater. "Home sweet home," Serena said, cutting the engine. Knox stared at the shack. Then he looked back at the mansion. "I don't understand. That big house back there. That's where my stepmother lives." Serena climbed off the motorcycle and unstrapped Rosie. "Gloria, she moved in when my dad remarried. After he died, she took over everything." "And you live here?" "I live here." Serena set Rosie down, and the toddler ran toward the front door. "She lets me stay as long as I pay rent and help with chores at the main house." Knox felt anger start to simmer in his chest. "She makes you pay rent to live in this?" "It's complicated." Serena pushed open the creaky door. "Come on, I'll give you the tour. Won't take long." The inside of the apartment was exactly what Knox expected. And also somehow worse. One room served as the living area and kitchen combined. There was a small couch that looked like it had survived 3 generations. A tiny refrigerator that hummed too loudly. A 2-burner stove with only 1 working burner. Through a narrow doorway, Knox could see a cramped bedroom with a single bed. Serena and Rosie clearly shared it. The ceiling had water stains, the walls had cracks, the floor creaked with every step. But there were also signs of love everywhere. Rosie's colorful drawings taped to the walls, a small vase with wildflowers on the windowsill, a cheerful yellow rug covering the worst of the damaged floor. Serena had tried to make this place a home. She was doing her best with nothing. "I know it's not much," she said, suddenly looking embarrassed. "But it's what I have." "It's yours," Knox said quietly. "That matters." Something flickered in Serena's eyes. Surprise, maybe. And something else. Gratitude. "Thank you for saying that." "Mom, Mom?" Rosie tugged at Serena's leg. "I'm hungry now." "I know, baby. Let me see what we have. Serena opened the tiny refrigerator. Knox saw the contents over her shoulder. A few eggs. Some vegetables that had seen better days. Half a carton of milk. Not much else. Serena stared at the sparse shelves for a moment. Then she put on a bright smile. How about scrambled eggs? Eggs! Love eggs, Rosie cheered. Knox, you like eggs? Yeah, sure. He watched as Serena cracked eggs into a bowl, adding whatever vegetables she could salvage. She moved with practiced efficiency, making the most of what little she had. And Knox felt the guilt hit him like a truck. This woman had barely enough food for herself and her daughter, and she had still invited him into her home. She was about to feed him with food she couldn't afford to share. He should tell her. Right now. He should confess everything. But if he did, his experiment would be over, and he would never know if her kindness was real. If she would have treated him the same way, knowing he could solve all her problems with a phone call. Just a little longer, he told himself. Just until I understand who she really is. He pushed down the guilt and forced a smile. Can I help with anything? Serena looked surprised by the offer. You could set the table. Plates are in that cabinet. On it. Knox moved around the tiny kitchen, and Rosie followed him like a shadow. You stay here now? She asked. For a little while? Good. Rosie nodded firmly. I like you. Yeah? Knox smiled. I like you too, little one. My name Rosie, not little one. She corrected with a pouty frown. Right, sorry, I like you too, Rosie. The toddler beamed. And despite everything, the lies, the guilt, the impossible situation, Knox felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The next morning, Serena got up before dawn. Knox woke to the sound of her moving quietly around the apartment, trying not to disturb anyone. Where are you going? He mumbled, sitting up on the lumpy couch she had made into a bed for him. Work. She was already dressed in worn jeans and a faded t-shirt. Morning deliveries, then I have a shift at the main house. The main house? You mean your stepmother's place? Yeah, I do cleaning and laundry there. It's part of our arrangement. Knox felt that familiar anger flare. That doesn't seem fair. Life isn't fair. Serena's voice was matter of fact, not bitter. I do what I have to do. She grabbed her delivery bag. Rosie usually wakes up around 8. There's cereal in the cabinet. I should be back by noon. Wait, Knox stood up. Let me come with you, to the main house. I should earn my keep. Serena hesitated. You sure? It's not fun work. Neither is sitting on a street corner. He managed a grin. I'm tougher than I look. Something softened in Serena's expression. Okay, be at the main house by 10. I'll introduce you to Gloria. Looking forward to it. Serena laughed, a real laugh that lit up her whole face. Trust me, you're really not. At exactly 10 o'clock, Knox walked up the grand front steps of the mansion. Up close, the place was even more impressive. Marble columns, polished wood, crystal chandeliers visible through the windows, everything gleaming and perfect. And this was what Serena had been kicked out of. Knox knocked on the door. It was opened by a woman who looked like she had never smiled a day in her life. Gloria Reynolds was thin and sharp-featured, with cold eyes and lips pressed into a permanent line of disapproval. She was dripping with expensive jewelry that probably cost more than Serena made in a year. Who are you? She demanded. I'm Knox, a friend of Serena's. She said I could help with some work around the house. She said, what? I'm staying with her for a while. I wanted to help out. Staying with her? Gloria's voice rose an octave. In my property? In her apartment, the one she pays rent on. Gloria's eyes narrowed dangerously. Serena appeared behind her stepmother. He's telling the truth, Gloria. Knox is an old classmate. He's going through a hard time. So I'm letting him stay with me. You're letting some random homeless man stay in my property? It's my apartment. I pay rent. I'm allowed to have guests. You're allowed to have what I say you're allowed to have. I'm an adult. Serena's voice was calm but firm, stronger than Knox expected. I work hard. I pay my bills. I don't need your permission to have a friend stay with me. Gloria looked like she was about to explode. But before she could respond, another woman appeared at the top of the stairs. What's all this noise? This had to be the stepsister. She was younger than Gloria, maybe mid-20s, dressed in designer clothes that probably cost more than Serena's entire wardrobe. Her makeup was flawless. Her hair was styled to perfection. And the way she looked at Knox made his skin crawl. "Well, well," she said, descending the stairs slowly, her hips swaying. "Who do we have here?" "Megan, this is Knox," Serena said. "He's helping me with chores today." "Helping you?" Megan's eyes traveled over Knox in a way that made him deeply uncomfortable. How generous of him. She reached the bottom of the stairs and extended her hand toward Knox. "I'm Megan, Gloria's daughter, and you are absolutely not what I expected." Knox shook her hand briefly. Too briefly, judging by the flash of annoyance in her eyes. "Nice to meet you." "The pleasure is all mine." Megan smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You know, for someone who's been through hard times, you clean up surprisingly well." "Megan!" Gloria's voice was sharp. "That's enough. He's beneath you." "I'm just being friendly, Mother." Serena grabbed Knox's arm. "Come on. We have work to do." She pulled him away from the foyer, but Knox could feel Megan's eyes following him all the way down the hall. "Sorry about that," Serena murmured once they were out of earshot. "Megan is a lot?" "I was going to say complicated, but yeah, a lot works too." Knox laughed. "Thanks for the warning. Just stay away from her if you can. She's trouble." Noted. The next few hours were spent doing hard labor. Serena showed Knox how to operate the industrial washing machines. She taught him exactly how Gloria liked her sheets folded, with military precision. She explained that every towel had to be organized by color, every surface had to sparkle, every single thing had to be perfect. "If she finds anything wrong, she takes it out of my rent," Serena explained. Knox wanted to punch a wall. But he kept his cool. He helped with the laundry, the dusting, the polishing. He followed Serena's instructions without complaint. And he watched. He watched how Serena moved through the mansion like a ghost. How Gloria and Megan treated her like hired help instead of family. How Serena never complained, never fought back, never demanded better. She just worked. Quietly. Efficiently. Without expecting anything in return. Around noon, Gloria called Serena to the main living room for some new task. Knox was left alone in the study, dusting bookshelves. That's when he noticed the filing cabinet. It was slightly open. A folder was peeking out, labeled Property Documents. Knox glanced toward the door. He could hear Serena's voice in the distance, along with Gloria's shrill complaints about something. He shouldn't look. This was none of his business, but something pulled him toward that cabinet. He opened the drawer, pulled out the folder. What he found made his blood run cold. The deed to the property, the entire estate, the mansion, the land, the little apartment out back. All of it. And the name on the deed? Serena Marie Mitchell. Not Gloria Reynolds, not anyone else. Serena. Knox flipped through the other documents with trembling hands. Letters from lawyers about inheritance rights. A trust document from Serena's father, clearly stating that the entire property was to pass to his daughter upon his death. And buried at the bottom, a forged power of attorney that gave Gloria control over Serena's assets. It was all here. Every piece of evidence proving that Gloria had stolen Serena's inheritance. The mansion wasn't Gloria's. It had never been Gloria's. Serena was the rightful owner, and she had no idea. Knox felt rage build in his chest like a fire. He wanted to march out there right now. He wanted to expose Gloria for the thief she was. He wanted to call his lawyers, the best lawyers in the country, and destroy this woman. But if he did that, he would have to explain how he could afford those lawyers. He would have to reveal who he really was. And Serena would find out he had been lying to her. Not yet, Knox told himself, carefully replacing the folder. But I'm going to make this right. I'm going to get her home back, as soon as I figure out how to tell her the truth. He closed the cabinet just as he heard footsteps approaching. There you are. Serena appeared in the doorway. Ready for a break? I managed to save us some lunch. Knox forced a smile. Yeah, lunch sounds great. But as he followed her out of the study, his mind was racing. He had more secrets now than when he started, and the weight of them was becoming harder and harder to carry. Okay, I need everyone to drop a comment right now telling me how you feel about what Knox just discovered. Should he tell Serena immediately, or should he wait? Let me know what you would do. Days turned into weeks. Knox fell into a rhythm with Serena and Rosie that felt dangerously close to normal. Mornings were for helping around the tiny apartment, fixing what he could, cleaning what needed cleaning. Afternoons were for whatever odd job Serena could find for him, because Serena was determined to keep Knox off the streets. You need real work, she insisted one evening, scrolling through job listings on her cracked phone. I'm not letting you go back to begging. Yes, ma'am. Knox saluted playfully. Serena threw a pillow at him. I'm serious. I know you are. He caught the pillow and grinned. That's what makes it funny. Knox? Okay. What jobs did you find? There's a moving company hiring, and a landscaping crew that needs workers. Both sound great. I'll check them out tomorrow. What Serena didn't know was that Knox would never actually work those jobs. Every morning, he would pretend to leave for work. But instead, he would find a quiet cafe and spend a few hours on a hidden tablet, managing his billion-dollar empire from afar. Wesley, his head of PR, had arranged for people to cover for Knox at each job. They would show up, do the work, and confirm if anyone called that Knox was an excellent employee. It was an elaborate lie, but it was working. And every evening, Knox would come home with money in his pocket. Look at this. Serena's eyes went wide the first time he handed her a roll of cash. You made $200? Overtime, Knox said with a shrug. Plus tips. Tips? For moving furniture? What can I say? I'm very charming. Serena laughed and shook her head. You're ridiculous. Ridiculously handsome? Ridiculously annoying. But she was smiling, and that smile made Knox feel like the richest man in the world, which, technically, he was. But still, the gifts started coming. One evening, Knox walked in with bags of groceries. What is all this? Serena asked, watching him unload eggs, milk, bread, fresh vegetables, fruit, chicken, and more food than she had seen in weeks. Got a bonus at work, Knox said casually. Another bonus? I told you, I'm charming. The next day, he brought clothes and baby wipes for Rosie. The day after that, a new blanket for Serena's bed. I noticed yours had holes, he explained. Knox, you can't keep. Too late. Already bought it. No returns. Then came toys for Rosie. Cleaning supplies, a small space heater for the cold nights, new shoes for Serena when he noticed hers were falling apart. Okay, seriously. Serena confronted him one evening, holding up the shoes. These are way too expensive. You need to save your money. What for? For you, for your future. Knox looked at her. Really looked at her. Serena, he said quietly, this is my future, right here, with you and Rosie. This is what I want to spend my money on. The words hung in the air. Serena's breath caught. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Rosie came running in from the bedroom. Mom, look! She was waving around a stuffed elephant Knox had brought home the day before. Ellie wants food. The moment broke, but something had shifted between them. Something neither of them was ready to name. Let me tell you something about Knox Crawford. Before this experiment, before Serena, he had never really understood what it meant to be happy. Oh, he had money. He had success. He had everything the world said should make a person content. But his penthouse was empty. His relationships were shallow. His days were filled with meetings and deals and numbers that never seemed to add up to anything meaningful. And now? Now he woke up on a lumpy couch in a crumbling apartment, and he felt more alive than he had in years. Because of Rosie, who followed him around like a tiny shadow and announced her observations in 3-word sentences. Knox is funny. Knox smells better. Knox eats lots. And because of Serena. Serena, who worked 3 jobs and never complained. Who sang to her daughter when she thought no one was listening. Who saved leftover food in plastic bags because she never knew when the next meal would come. Knox had started noticing that habit. Every morning at breakfast, Serena would carefully set aside bits of food, a piece of toast, some fruit, whatever was left, and tuck them into plastic containers. For later, she would say with a sheepish smile. Just in case. Just in case they didn't get lunch. Just in case the deliveries were slow. Just in case. It broke Knox's heart every time. He wanted to tell her that she would never have to worry about just in case again, that he could give her and Rosie everything they ever needed. But that would mean telling her the truth. And every day, the truth got harder to tell. The guilt was eating Knox alive. Every night, after Serena and Rosie were asleep, he would lie on the couch and stare at the water-stained ceiling. He was falling for her. Hard. There was no denying it anymore. But how could he tell her how he felt when everything about him was a lie? She thought he was a broke man trying to rebuild his life. She thought the money he brought home came from manual labor. She thought the gifts were a sacrifice he was making for her. She had no idea that he could buy this entire neighborhood without blinking. And she definitely had no idea that her stepmother had stolen her inheritance. Knox had looked more into the property situation. His lawyers, working secretly of course, had confirmed everything. The documents were forged. The power of attorney was fraudulent. Serena was the legal owner of the entire estate, but he couldn't reveal any of that without revealing himself. Soon, he kept promising himself. I'll tell her soon. But soon never seemed to come. It was Megan who finally forced the issue. She had been watching Knox for weeks, and she had noticed things, the way he carried himself, the confidence in his posture. The way he spoke, articulate, educated, not like someone who had been living on the streets. And then there was the black card. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. Knox had come to the mansion to help Serena with the weekly cleaning. He had taken off his jacket and hung it on a hook in the hallway. Megan, passing by, had accidentally knocked the jacket to the floor. Something small and black had fallen out of the pocket. She had picked it up before Knox could stop her. "What's this?" Megan asked, turning the card over in her manicured fingers. Knox's heart stopped. It was his Centurion card, the black American Express card that only the ultra-wealthy could get. The card with no spending limit. The card that could expose everything. "It's nothing," he said, reaching for it. "Old card. Doesn't work anymore." "Doesn't work anymore?" Megan held it just out of his reach. "This is a Centurion card, honey. These don't just stop working." "Mine did. Bankruptcy, remember?" Megan didn't look convinced. "You know what I think? I really don't care. I think you're hiding something." She stepped closer, invading his space. "I think there's more to you than you're letting on. And I'm very, very curious to find out what." Knox kept his expression neutral. "There's nothing to find out. I'm exactly what I appear to be." "Are you, though?" Megan's smile was predatory. "Because I've been watching you, Knox, and you don't act like someone who lost everything. You act like someone who's pretending to have lost everything." Knox said nothing. Megan ran a finger down his chest. "I could help you, you know. Whatever your secret is, I can keep it. All you have to do is..." She leaned in close, her lips brushing his ear. "Be nice to me." Knox caught her wrist and removed it from his chest. "I'm going to say this once," he said, his voice low and cold, the voice he used in boardrooms when deals were about to go bad. "I'm not interested. I will never be interested. And if you touch me again, we're going to have a serious problem." For a moment, Megan actually looked scared. Then her expression twisted into something ugly. "You're going to regret this." "Doubt it." He released her wrist and walked away. He didn't realize Serena had seen everything. She had come around the corner just in time to witness Megan with her hands on Knox's chest. She had heard his rejection. She had seen the look on his face. "How long were you there?" Knox asked when he found her standing in the hallway. "Long enough?" Serena's expression was unreadable. "She really tried it, huh?" "She did." "And you told her no?" "I did." Serena was quiet for a moment. Then she crossed the distance between them and hugged him. It was unexpected. It was warm. And it was everything Knox didn't know he needed. "Thank you," she whispered into his chest. "For what?" "For being you." She pulled back to look at him. "For not being like everyone else." Knox felt his heart crack. "She doesn't know who I am," he thought. "She doesn't know I'm lying to her every single day." But she was looking at him with such trust, Such warmth, such genuine affection, and he couldn't bring himself to ruin it. "I should thank you," he said softly, "for believing in me when no one else did." Serena smiled, that beautiful smile that made everything seem okay. That's what friends are for. Friends. Right, friends. But Megan was not done. That night, she went to her mother with a carefully crafted story. "Mother, that man is dangerous." Gloria looked up from her magazine. "What man?" "Knox, the homeless one Serena brought in." Megan put on her best victimized expression. "He cornered me in the hallway today. He tried to force himself on me." Gloria's eyes went wide. "He did what?" "I fought him off. But I'm scared, Mother. I don't feel safe with him on our property." "That disgusting vagrant," Gloria shot to her feet. "I'll have him arrested." Or, Megan smiled sweetly, "we could just kick Serena out. She's the one who brought him here. She should be responsible for his behavior." Gloria's eyes lit up with cruel pleasure. "You're absolutely right." The confrontation happened the next morning. Serena and Knox had just arrived at the main house for their cleaning shift when Gloria intercepted them in the foyer. "You!" Gloria pointed at Knox, her face twisted with rage. "How dare you show your face here?" Serena stepped forward. "Gloria, what?" "Your little boyfriend attacked my daughter." "What?" Serena's jaw dropped. "That's insane." "Megan told me everything. He cornered her. He tried to force himself on her." "That never happened," Knox protested. "Liar." Gloria was trembling with theatrical fury. "You're a violent, dangerous criminal, and I want you off my property immediately." "Gloria, listen to me." Serena's voice was steady. "Megan is lying. I was there. I saw what happened. She was the one who came onto Knox, and he rejected her. How dare you accuse my daughter of lying? Because she is lying." "Enough." Gloria pointed toward the door. "I want both of you out, now. Pack your things and get off my property." Serena's face went pale. "You can't do that. I have a lease." "Your lease is void. You violated the terms by bringing this predator into my property." "He's not a predator." "I don't care what he is. You have 1 hour to pack your things. If you're not gone by then, I'm calling the police." Serena looked like she had been slapped. Knox felt rage boiling in his veins. He wanted to tell Gloria exactly who she was dealing with. He wanted to reveal that the property wasn't even hers. He wanted to watch her face crumble when she realized she had just threatened a man who could destroy her with a single phone call. But he held his tongue. Because this wasn't about him. It was about Serena. "Let's go," he said quietly, taking her hand. "But, let's just go." Serena looked at him with devastated eyes. Then she nodded. An hour later, everything Serena owned was packed into 2 worn suitcases. She stood outside the tiny apartment that had been her home for 2 years, Rosie on her hip, tears streaming down her face. "I don't have anywhere to go," she whispered. "I don't have anything." Knox took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would change everything. "Actually," he said, "I might know a place." Serena looked at him. "What?" "I have a friend. Well, a friend of a friend. He owns a house that's been sitting empty for months. He told me once that if I ever needed somewhere to stay, I could use it." "A house?" "It's not fancy or anything." That was a lie. It was extremely fancy. "But it's empty, and he won't mind." Serena shook her head. "I can't just move into some stranger's house." "It's not moving in. It's borrowing, just until we figure out our next steps." "We?" "We." Knox squeezed her hand. "I'm not leaving you, Serena. Not now, not ever." Serena stared at him for a long moment. Then Rosie, who had been watching the whole exchange, announced, "Knox's family." 3 words, simple words, but they hit both adults right in the heart. "Yeah, baby girl," Serena whispered, her voice thick. "I think he is." Hours later, Serena's jaw hit the floor. "This is the house?" She was standing at the end of a long, winding driveway, staring at what could only be described as a mansion. No, not a mansion. A palace. 3 stories of pristine white stone. Floor-to-ceiling windows that sparkled in the afternoon sun. Perfectly manicured gardens with fountains and flower beds and hedges trimmed into perfect shapes. A circular driveway with an actual marble fountain in the center. It looked like something out of a fairy tale. "This is your friend's friend's house?" Serena repeated, her voice squeaky. "Yep." Knox kept his expression carefully neutral. "I told you, he's kind of eccentric. Buys properties and then forgets about them." "Forgets about them? This place is worth millions. He's got a lot of properties." Rosie squirmed in Serena's arms, craning her neck to look at the enormous building. "Big house," she announced. "So big." "It's definitely big, baby girl." "We live here?" Serena looked at Knox uncertainly. "Are you sure about this? I feel like we're trespassing." "We're not trespassing. I already called ahead. The staff is expecting us." "There's staff?" Knox winced internally. He probably should have warned her about that. "Just a few people who look after the place. You know, make sure it doesn't fall apart while the owner is away." Serena shook her head slowly, looking completely overwhelmed. "Knox, this is too much. It's just a house. It has fountains, plural. More than one fountain. Some people like fountains. Nobody needs this many fountains." Knox bit back a laugh. He had never really thought about how ridiculous his properties must look to normal people. To him, this was actually one of his smaller estates. But to Serena, it was clearly incomprehensible. "Look," he said gently, "I know it's a lot, but we need somewhere to stay, and this place is empty. We'd actually be doing the owner a favor by being here. Houses need people in them or they start to decay." Serena still looked uncertain. But then Rosie pointed at the garden with an excited shriek. "Flowers. Pretty flowers." And just like that, the decision was made. "Okay," Serena said, exhaling slowly. "But we're not just going to freeload. We're going to help out. Clean, do chores, whatever the staff needs. We're going to earn our keep. Whatever you want." "I mean it, Knox. I don't take charity." "I know you don't." He smiled at her, that crooked, warm smile that made her stomach do funny things. "That's one of the things I love about you." The words hung in the air. Serena's cheeks flushed pink. "I mean," Knox backtracked quickly, his own face heating up. "That's one of the things I admire about you, as a person, that I know, in a friend way." "Right." Serena nodded too quickly. "Friend way. Totally. Totally." They stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then Rosie broke the tension by announcing, "Knox is weird." Both adults burst out laughing. "You're not wrong, little one," Knox said, ruffling her hair. "Come on, let me show you inside." If you're already laughing at these two disasters, drop a comment saying, "Just kiss already." Because honestly, the tension is killing me too. The inside of the house was even more impressive than the outside. Marble floors that gleamed like mirrors. Crystal chandeliers that caught the light and scattered rainbows across the walls. Furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Artwork that probably cost more than most people's houses. Serena walked through the foyer in a daze, her worn sneakers squeaking on the polished marble. "This is insane," she whispered. "This is actually insane." "It's a bit much," Knox admitted. "A bit much?" "Knox, there's a chandelier the size of my entire apartment." "Yeah, the owner has expensive taste." "You think?" Rosie had no such reservations about the house. The moment Serena set her down, she took off running, her little feet pattering across the marble. "Rosie, be careful." But the toddler was already sliding across the floor in her socks, giggling wildly. "Wee, slippery." "Oh my God, she's going to break something." "She's fine." Knox watched Rosie with an amused smile. "Kids are made of rubber." "Kids are not made of rubber." "Well, they bounce like they are." Before Serena could argue, a woman in a crisp uniform appeared from a side hallway. She was in her 50s, with graying hair pulled back in a neat bun and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners. Her name was Eleanor, and she had been Knox's head housekeeper for over a decade. The moment she saw Knox, her face lit up. "Sir," Knox's eyes went wide with panic. "Surely you must be the guest we've been expecting?" Eleanor corrected herself smoothly, shooting Knox a knowing look. "Welcome, I'm Eleanor. I manage the household." Serena smiled warmly. "I'm Serena, and this is my daughter Rosie, and you've met Knox." "Yes, of course. Mr. Knox, the friend of our employer's friend. That's me. Knox's laugh was slightly too loud. Just a regular guy, staying here, normally, like normal people do. Eleanor raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I want you to know, Serena said earnestly, we don't want to be a burden. We're going to help out with whatever you need. Cleaning, laundry, cooking. I'm a hard worker, I promise. Eleanor looked genuinely confused. She glanced at Knox, clearly not understanding why a guest would offer to help with housework. Knox gave her a subtle nod. That's very kind of you, Eleanor said slowly. But really, it's not necessary. I insist. Serena was already rolling up her sleeves. You have this whole massive house to take care of. Extra hands can only help, right? I suppose? Great, Serena beamed. Just put me to work. Rosie and I are used to helping out. Rosie, who had slid back over to join them, nodded seriously. We help good. Eleanor looked at Knox with an expression that clearly said, what exactly is going on here? Knox just shrugged. She's very determined, he said. I've learned not to argue. And so began the strangest situation of Eleanor's entire career. She had worked for Mr. Crawford for 11 years. She had managed estates all over the world. She had hosted dignitaries, celebrities, politicians, and royalty. But she had never, in all her years of service, had a guest who insisted on doing chores. Serena was a force of nature. Every morning, she would wake up at dawn and start cleaning rooms that were already spotless. She would dust furniture that didn't need dusting. She would reorganize closets that were perfectly organized. She would ask the kitchen staff if they needed help with breakfast, then offer to do the dishes afterward. This is very unusual, Eleanor murmured to Knox one morning, watching Serena enthusiastically scrub a counter that had been cleaned 20 minutes ago. I know. She does realize she's a guest, doesn't she? She does. She just doesn't know how to not work. Eleanor watched Serena for a long moment. She's a good person, she said quietly. The best. Knox's voice was soft. She's the best person I've ever met. Eleanor studied her employer's face. In all her years working for him, she had never seen Knox look at anyone the way he looked at this woman. You care about her, she said. It wasn't a question. More than I've ever cared about anyone. Then perhaps you should tell her the truth, before it's too late. Knox was silent. I will, he said finally. Soon. But soon never seemed to come. The staff was having a hard time keeping up the act. They were so used to treating Knox with deference that they kept slipping. Little things that Serena almost noticed but didn't quite. The way the gardener would step aside when Knox walked past. The way the cook would ask Knox's opinion on the menu, then quickly pretend she was asking both of them. The way everyone seemed to wait for Knox's approval before doing anything. Have you noticed something weird about the staff? Serena asked one evening. Knox's heart stopped. Weird how? I don't know. They're just really nice to you, like really nice. Maybe I'm just a likable guy. You are likable. Serena smiled. But it's more than that. It's like they're nervous around you or something. I have that effect on people. Knox struck a dramatic pose. I'm very intimidating. Serena laughed. You are the least intimidating person I know. Excuse me? I am very intimidating. Tell her, Rosie. Rosie, who was playing with blocks on the floor, looked up. Knox is silly? Et tu, Rosie. The toddler giggled and went back to her blocks. See? Serena was grinning. Not intimidating at all. I'm hurt, truly wounded. You'll survive. Knox clutched his chest dramatically. I'm not sure I will. I may need medical attention. What you need is to help me fold this laundry. Ah, yes, my true calling, professional laundry folder. He joined her on the couch, picking up a towel from the basket. They worked in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Serena spoke again. Knox? Yeah? Thank you for all of this. She gestured vaguely at the house. I know you said it's your friend's friend's place, but you made it happen. You found us somewhere to stay when we had nowhere to go. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. She turned to look at him, her eyes serious. You've done so much for us. The groceries, the gifts, finding this house. I don't know how I'm ever going to repay you. Knox felt the guilt twist in his stomach. You don't have to repay me, he wanted to say. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Everything I've given you is nothing compared to what you've given me. But he couldn't say any of that, so instead, he just smiled. You don't owe me anything, Serena. I'm exactly where I want to be. Their eyes met. Something passed between them, something warm and electric and terrifying all at once. Then Rosie threw a block at Knox's head. Catch! The moment broke. But something had shifted, and both of them knew it. All right, if you're feeling these two falling for each other, drop a comment saying, the chemistry is real, because I am here for this slow burn romance. The real slip-up happened 3 days later. It was breakfast time. Serena, Knox, and Rosie were eating in the smaller dining room, the one that only seated 12 people, which Serena still found ridiculous. Thomas, an older staff member who had been with Knox's family for decades, came in to refill the coffee. More coffee, Mr. Craw. He caught himself, but not fast enough. Knox choked on his eggs. Serena looked up. What did he start to say? Crawford, Thomas blurted. I was going to say Crawford. That's Mr. Knox's coffee preference. Crawford Blend, from Colombia. It's a specific type of coffee, named Crawford, after the mountain, where it grows. Crawford Mountain, in Colombia. There was a long, painful silence. I've never heard of Crawford Mountain, Serena said slowly. Oh, it's very obscure, very exclusive. Only coffee people know about it. Are you a coffee person, Thomas? I am now. Thomas practically fled the room. Knox let out a breath. That was weird, Serena said. Thomas is weird. He's been working here too long. The isolation has gotten to him. What was he actually going to call you? Who knows? Like I said, weird guy. Serena didn't look entirely convinced, but she let it go. Knox made a mental note to have a very serious conversation with his staff about their cover story. But the near misses kept happening. The gardener called Knox boss before quickly pretending he had said toss, as in, would you like to toss this ball around? The cook asked Knox if he wanted his usual before catching herself and saying she meant the usual breakfast foods that all people eat usually. And Eleanor, poor Eleanor, had the hardest time of all. She had been serving Knox since he was 25 years old. The habit of treating him with formal respect was deeply ingrained. Would you like me to… does anyone want more tea? She would ask, her eyes sliding to Knox first. The car is ready for anyone who needs it, for driving purposes. Sir, surely it's a nice day outside, isn't it? Serena noticed. Of course she noticed, but every time she brought it up, Knox would deflect with a joke or change the subject. And she trusted him. That was the worst part. She trusted him completely. Meanwhile, Knox was struggling with the weight of his secrets. Every night, after Serena and Rosie were asleep, he would lie awake thinking about everything he was hiding. His identity, his money, the truth about Serena's inheritance. He had his lawyers working on the property situation. They had confirmed that the documents Gloria used were definitely forged. They had enough evidence to take her to court and win. But Knox couldn't make a move without revealing who he was. And he wasn't ready for that. Because he was terrified. Terrified that Serena would look at him differently once she knew the truth. Terrified that she would think everything between them was a lie. Terrified that she would leave. Just a little longer, he told himself every night. Just until I find the right way to tell her. But the right way never seemed to come. And the guilt was eating him alive. Serena had her own routine now. Every morning at breakfast, she would eat a small portion. She would make sure Rosie had enough. And then, when she thought no one was watching, she would carefully pack the leftovers into small plastic containers. A piece of toast, some fruit, whatever could be saved. For later, she would say if anyone asked. Just in case. It broke Knox's heart every single time, because just in case meant she still wasn't sure. Even here, in this house full of food and luxury, Serena still didn't trust that there would be enough. Years of poverty had taught her to always be prepared for the worst. One morning, Knox watched her tuck a handful of grapes into a baggie and slip it into her pocket. Serena. She looked up, startled. Yeah? You know you don't have to do that anymore, right? Her face flushed. It's just a habit. I don't like wasting food. It's not wasting, but... He moved closer, taking her hands in his. You're safe now. Rosie is safe. There's going to be enough, I promise. Serena's eyes glistened. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. How? Because I'm worth $53 billion and I will burn the world down before I let you go hungry again. But he couldn't say that. So instead, he just squeezed her hands. Because I'm going to make sure of it, no matter what. Serena stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She went up on her tiptoes and kissed his cheek. It was soft. Quick. Over before Knox could even process what had happened. Thank you, she whispered, for being you. Then she walked away, leaving Knox standing in the kitchen with his heart pounding out of his chest. Y'all, the tenderness. If you're feeling all the feels right now, drop a comment with a heart emoji. Let me know this story is hitting you right in the chest. 3 weeks had passed since they moved into the mansion. 3 weeks of cleaning and cooking and settling into something that felt dangerously close to a family. Knox taught Rosie how to ride a tricycle in the garden. Serena taught Knox how to cook spaghetti that didn't come out of a microwave. They had movie nights on the massive couch in the living room, with Rosie always falling asleep halfway through and Knox carrying her to bed. It was domestic. It was comfortable. It was everything Knox never knew he wanted. And then everything fell apart. It started with an email. Serena was checking her phone while Rosie napped, scrolling through her inbox mostly out of habit. She had applied to dozens of jobs over the past year, and she had gotten used to rejection letters. But this email was different. Subject: Congratulations on your new position. Morrison Financial Group. Serena's heart stopped. Morrison Financial Group. She had applied there 6 months ago, as well as to 1,000 other companies, hoping for a miracle that would take her out of the trenches. It was a long shot, a prestigious firm that she had no business applying to. She had never expected to hear back. She opened the email with trembling fingers. Dear Ms. Mitchell, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the position of executive assistant to our senior management team. Serena couldn't believe what she was reading. The salary was more than she had made in an entire year of delivery work. The benefits were incredible. It was a real job, a career, a future. She ran to find Knox. Knox, Knox. He came running from the garden, looking alarmed. What? What's wrong? I got a job. Serena was practically vibrating with excitement. A real job, at Morrison Financial Group. Knox's face went pale. Morrison Financial, one of Crawford Industries' subsidiary companies. He had asked Wesley to find her a position there weeks ago. That's amazing, he managed. I applied 6 months ago. I never thought... Serena threw her arms around him. Things are finally turning around. I can actually support Rosie properly. We can get our own place. We can... Her phone rang. Serena answered without looking. Hello? Ms. Mitchell? This is Harold from Morrison Financial Group's HR department. I'm just calling to confirm your start date. Yes, Monday, right? I'm so excited. Perfect. We're all very excited to have you. Mr. R. Crawford specifically requested that we... The man stopped abruptly. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Serena's blood ran cold. What did you say? Who requested? No one. I misspoke. I meant the HR department requested. I need to go. Congratulations again. The line went dead. Serena stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear. Mr. Crawford. Crawford. The same thing Thomas had almost called Knox this morning. The same name on the company building. She turned slowly to look at Knox. Serena, I can explain. What's your full name? What? Your full name. Tell me right now. Knox's face crumbled. Knox Crawford. As in Crawford Industries? Silence. As in the billionaire? Serena's voice was rising. As in the man who owns Morrison Financial Group? Serena, please, let me... Oh my God. She stumbled backward, her hand covering her mouth. Oh my God. It's not what you think. Not what I think. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. You lied to me. This whole time. You let me believe you were homeless. You let me give you my food. You let me... Her voice broke. I gave you everything I had, Knox. I took you into my home when I had nothing. And you were a billionaire the whole time? Serena, was this a game to you? Some kind of sick joke? Poor little Serena, so stupid she can't even tell when she's being used? No, it was never like that. Then what was it like? She was sobbing now, ugly crying that shook her whole body. Tell me! Knox felt his heart shatter into a million pieces. This was his worst nightmare. Everything he had feared was happening right in front of him. Every year, he said, his voice cracking, on the anniversary of my father's death, I spend 1 month living on the streets. Serena stared at him, still crying but listening. I give up everything, my money, my identity, my entire life, and I watch. I watch to see who shows kindness to a stranger who has nothing to offer. Because my father told me that's the only way to see someone's true heart. So, I was an experiment? No. You were supposed to be just another name on a list, someone I would help and move on from. But then you took me home, and I met Rosie, and I saw how you lived. Knox stepped toward her, but she stepped back. I saw how hard you worked, how you never complained, how you loved your daughter with everything you had even when you had nothing. And I couldn't walk away. You should have told me. I know. You should have told me from the beginning. I know. His voice broke. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Serena was trembling with anger and hurt. You made me look like a fool. I was packing leftovers for us while you could have bought a restaurant. You must have been amused. I never thought you were a fool, never. Then what, Knox? Why did you let this go on so long? He was crying now, too, tears streaming down his face. Because I fell in love with you. The words hung in the air. I fell in love with you, Knox repeated. And I was terrified that if you knew the truth, everything would change. You would look at me differently. You would wonder if my feelings were real. You would... leave. Serena finished his sentence. You thought I would leave. Yes. So instead, you just kept lying. I was going to tell you. I swear I was. I didn't want to lose you. Serena wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. There's something else, Knox said quietly. Something you need to know. What now? You're secretly a prince too? It's about your father's estate. Serena went still. What about it? When I was helping you clean at Gloria's mansion, I found documents, property records, legal papers. He paused. The mansion doesn't belong to Gloria, Serena. It belongs to you. Serena's face went pale. What? The deed is in your name. It always has been. Gloria forged papers to take control of your inheritance. She's been living in your house, making you pay rent on your property, and none of it is legal. That's not possible. My lawyers have already confirmed it. The forgery is clear. We can fight this. We can get everything back. Serena pressed her hands to her temples. I can't process this right now. She backed toward the door. I need to go. I need air. Serena, wait. No. She held up her hand. I can't be here right now. I can't be around you. I need to think. She turned and ran. Serena! But she was already out the door. Knox started to follow her, but a small voice stopped him. Knox? He turned. Rosie was standing in the hallway, her stuffed elephant clutched to her chest. She must have woken up from her nap and heard everything. Hey, little one. Knox crouched down to her level, trying to hide his tears. What are you doing up? Mom crying? Yeah. She's upset right now. Why? How do you explain this to a 2-year-old? I did something wrong, Knox said quietly. I didn't tell your mom the truth about something important. And now she's hurt. Rosie considered this with the gravity only a toddler could muster. Say sorry. I did. Mean it. I do. Then it okay. Rosie reached out and patted his cheek. Mom not mad again. Knox felt his heart crack. I hope so, little one. I really hope so. Rosie held out her arms and Knox picked her up. She snuggled into his chest. You stay, right? What? Don't leave. Her voice was small. You family now. Knox held her tighter. I'm not going anywhere, Rosie, I promise. If you're crying right now, drop a comment saying, the baby. Because honestly, Rosie is the MVP of this entire story. Outside, the sky had darkened. Serena had barely made it to the garden when the rain started. Not a gentle rain. A downpour. Sheets of water falling from the sky like the heavens had opened up. She didn't care. She walked into the storm, letting the rain soak through her clothes, letting it wash over her face, mixing with her tears. Her mind was spinning with everything she had just learned. Knox was a billionaire. Gloria had stolen her inheritance. The man she had been falling for had lied to her from the very beginning. And yet, a small, quiet voice in her head kept whispering things she didn't want to hear. He loves you. He was scared to lose you. He stayed even though he didn't have to. He chose you. Serena stopped in the middle of the garden, rain streaming down her face. Did any of it matter? The lies, the money, the secrets? When she stripped away all the noise, what was left? A man who had played with her daughter, who had made her laugh, who had looked at her like she was precious. A man who had chosen to stay in a crumbling apartment and sleep on a lumpy couch when he could have been anywhere in the world. A man who had said he loved her. And she realized something that terrified her and thrilled her in equal measure. She loved him too. Serena! She turned. Knox was running toward her through the rain. His clothes were drenched. His hair was plastered to his forehead. He looked ridiculous. He looked perfect. What are you doing? She yelled. You're going to get sick. Then we'll be sick together. He reached her, breathless. I'm not letting you run away. I'm not running away. I'm processing. You can process inside. Where it's dry. Maybe I like the rain. Nobody likes rain this hard. I'm dramatic, okay? Let me have this. Despite everything, Knox laughed. And then Serena was laughing too. They stood there in the pouring rain, soaking wet and laughing like idiots. I'm still mad at you, Serena said. I know. You lied to me. I know. You let me pack leftovers while you owned a private jet. It's actually 3 private jets, but not the point. Sorry. Knox held up his hands. I know, I'm terrible. You are terrible. But her voice was softening. You're a terrible liar. Thomas almost blew your cover like 5 times. He's getting old. His reflexes aren't what they used to be. Serena shook her head, water dripping down her face. Why didn't you just tell me? From the beginning? Because I've spent my whole life surrounded by people who only see my money. Knox's voice was raw. They don't see me. They see what I can give them. But you saw a homeless man on a street corner, and you saw a person worth saving. You weren't actually homeless. But you didn't know that. To you, I was a guy with nothing, and you still took me home. You still shared your food with me. You still treated me like I mattered. Serena was quiet. Do you know how rare that is? Knox continued. Do you know how long I've looked for someone who would like me without the money? Ike, she scoffed to herself. I do love you without the money. The words slipped out before Serena could stop them. Knox froze. What? I love you. Serena's voice was trembling. Not like. Love. I love the man who danced in my kitchen with my baby when he thought I wasn't watching. I love the man who makes my daughter laugh. I love the man who bought me shoes because mine had holes in them. She reached up and touched his face. I didn't fall in love with a billionaire. I fell in love with Knox, just Knox. Knox stared at her. Say something, Serena whispered. Instead of speaking, he kissed her. Right there in the pouring rain. His hands cradled her face like she was something precious. Her arms wrapped around his neck, pulling him closer. The rain washed over them both, and neither of them cared. When they finally broke apart, both gasping for air, Knox pressed his forehead to hers. I love you, he said. I should have told you a long time ago. I should have told you everything. Yes, you should have. Can you forgive me? Geez, will I tell you I love you if I didn't? Knox's face broke into the biggest smile she had ever seen. Can we go inside now? I'm freezing. Serena laughed. Yeah, let's go inside. Hand in hand, they walked back toward the house. Inside, Eleanor was waiting with warm towels and concerned expressions. Oh my goodness, you're both soaked. Let me get you some hot tea. Thank you, Eleanor. Knox took the towels gratefully. We're okay. We're more than okay. Eleanor's eyes flickered between them. She noticed their intertwined hands, the way they were looking at each other. A small smile crossed her face. I'll put the kettle on. She disappeared into the kitchen. Mom, Knox! Rosie came running from the living room, her face lighting up when she saw them together. You fix it? Serena laughed and scooped up her daughter. Yeah, baby girl, we fixed it. Rosie looked at Knox. You stay? I'm staying. Knox reached out and ruffled her hair. For good. Yay! Rosie cheered. Family now. Serena and Knox exchanged a look. Family? Yeah, that felt right. For the first time in years, Serena felt like everything was going to be okay. She had someone who loved her. She had a roof over her head. She was about to start a real job, and apparently, she had an entire estate that rightfully belonged to her. It was a lot to take in, but with Knox by her side, she felt like she could face anything. They spent the rest of the evening curled up on the couch, Rosie sleeping between them, hot cocoa in their hands. So what happens now? Serena asked softly. Now? Knox considered the question. Now we take back what's yours, the mansion, the property, everything Gloria stole. That's going to be a fight. Good thing I can afford good lawyers. Serena shook her head, still not quite believing any of this was real. And after that? Knox turned to look at her. After that, we build a life. Together. You, me, and Rosie. A real life, whatever that looks like. That sounds terrifying. Good terrifying? Serena smiled. Yeah, good terrifying. She leaned into him, letting her head rest on his shoulder. For the first time in 2 years, she felt at peace. And then her phone rang. Serena almost didn't answer it. She was too comfortable, too happy, too wrapped up in this perfect moment. But something made her glance at the screen. And when she saw the name, her blood turned to ice. Travis, Rosie's father. The man who had walked out on them 2 years ago and never looked back. With trembling hands, Serena answered. Hello? Hey, Serena? His voice was the same, smooth, confident, like nothing had changed. Long time no talk? What do you want, Travis? Knox sat up straighter, instantly alert. I want to see my daughter. Serena's stomach dropped. Your daughter? You mean the daughter you abandoned when she was 3 months old? The daughter you've never called or visited or supported? I made mistakes. I know that. But I've changed. Changed. Her voice was flat. I'm coming back to Atlanta. I want to be part of Rosie's life. Absolutely not. You don't have a choice. Travis's voice hardened. I'm her father. I have rights. You have nothing. You gave up your rights when you walked out. That's not how the law works, sweetheart. His voice was cold now. I've talked to a lawyer. I'm entitled to custody. The word hit Serena like a physical blow. Custody. He wanted to take her baby. Over my dead body, she whispered. We'll see about that. I'll be there in a few days. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice. The line went dead. Serena sat frozen. Serena? Knox's voice was urgent. What is it? What's wrong? She turned to look at him, her face white with terror. That was Travis, Rosie's father. What did he want? Serena looked down at her sleeping daughter, at the perfect, innocent little girl who was her entire world. He's coming back, she whispered. And he wants custody of our baby. And that is where we have to leave this story. I know you're screaming at your screen right now. After everything Serena and Knox have been through, now this? But here's the thing. This story isn't over. Not by a long shot. Knox has money, power, and the best lawyers in the country. Travis has no idea who he's up against. But will it be enough? Can they protect Rosie? And what other secrets might come out in the battle ahead? All those questions will be answered in the next part of this story. Make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me what you think should happen next. Should Knox use his billions to destroy Travis? Or does Travis have his own secret weapon? Type part 2 if you can't wait to see what happens next.